Good afternoon. This is Hope Rosky with Business, Arts, and Events. Well, some of you viewers out there have a child who is going to be heading off to college, and the planning process comes in very far in advance. Some people think, maybe the spring of my child's senior year. No, you need to plan well ahead of that. And one of the people here in the Fresno area who helps families plan is a man by the name of Karl. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hi, Hope. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you know what, Scott? I can't begin to thank you enough because you helped me through this very daunting process. And as some parents start to walk into this whole process of planning for their child's college, education and the ins and outs, it's a great deal of planning. And one of the shows I do is called Weddings and Celebrations, and people plan for weddings, but people also need to plan to have their child go through that whole process of what it means to apply for college and getting their finances together. So this is your wheelhouse in helping those families do that, especially those families who may need some of that extra financial help along the way. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is basically, how did you get into this whole college planning space?
Well, I've been a financial representative since 1994, and it has been brought to my attention many times with prospective clients and clients that this big college expense is looming. How do we approach this, Scott? What's the best way to pay for this life event that's coming their way? And so I've got many inquiries in that subject. So I took a deeper dive and did some research on what colleges are looking for, how do they size up a family's assets and cash flow, and determine what their expected family contribution is. And so that was a big part of it. And again, it's part of my wheelhouse, as you said, is preserving my clients' wealth. And college is going to be, or will be, one of the major purchases a family makes. And if they have 2 or 3 children, oh my gosh, right?
Right.
So that's how I integrated it in my practice.
And one of the things, too, that I'd like for you to address, because I fell into this category as well as a single parent, and if you are that single parent that is financing, and or let's say you are that parent and you have been remarried, but you are the one that is paying for the college education, there's some ins and outs and loopholes there, too. Can you enlighten the viewers a little bit about that as well, because that really does affect many people in today's world?
Absolutely. Everyone's got a unique circumstance, and that's why we provide a free consultation with prospective clients and people who attend our workshops and webinars to get a better understanding of their unique circumstances. So we have an approach that we take the strategy that's a good fit for each individual and walk them through each step of the way. So a single mom, for an example, has limited money supply and assets, and then their student is performing well or average or not so good in high school. And so there could be resources provided to the student to improve their position in looking as best as they can in the eyes of the colleges when they start to submit their applications. So there's a lot of financial aid opportunity to grab by student positioning when they're going through high school. And for the single parent, or it really doesn't matter for married couples, single families, or single mothers, or what have you. Our approach is the same. We want to identify common financial mistakes people make with their money, right, and then work with what they have. You don't have to have a certain amount of assets to work with us. We know you have a finite amount of money, and we want to examine strategies to get that money to work as hard as possible and efficiently. And so there's education behind financial planning in there as well, but then there's that element of getting your child positioned to attract that free money from merit-based scholarships, because that has no bearing on the family's income,
Right.
what the child could get from college.
Exactly. And one of the words we hear is FAFSA, right? And
Yeah.
this is the one. It's like people say, well, what is FAFSA and what does FAFSA really do? Can you talk a little bit and address for the viewers about FAFSA?
Yeah, it took me a couple of years to learn how to say that.
Say it fast 10 times,
F and
right?
the S. But you're right. It's a very important piece of the process. No matter how wealthy you are or how not so wealthy you are, you want to go through the FAFSA process, the application process. You go to studentaid.gov, and that's the FAFSA mothership website that no matter where your child is in high school, or in grades or what have you, or your net worth, your family's net worth, you want to submit your FAFSA timely. This year was a mess.
Yes.
And I won't get into that for the lack of time.
Yeah.
But usually
I understand.
October 1st is usually when the gun goes off, where the application gates open in the FAFSA website. And that's the senior year. Your child's in high school is when that needs to be completed in October, the child's senior year. And this way, once you complete it accurately and dot your I's and cross your T's, this will enable you to apply for less expensive loans and other financial aid opportunities. But if you just go in like a walk-on and not do the FAFSA, you're going to be treated like a stranger in the eyes of the colleges in most cases. So
Right.
You don't want to pass up the FAFSA.
Exactly. You know, Scott, there are many companies out there that say, well, I can help you with your child's college planning. But, you know, I have had experience working with you directly as well, and just really happy in the whole process. You really walked me through, like I said, what was a very daunting experience, and I thank you for that. But truly, what sets your services above the others? What separates you from the rest of the pack?
Well, the name of my game is cost efficiency. We want every dollar to work as hard as possible. College expenses are going to affect one's retirement income someday down the road.
Right.
So you want to preserve your wealth. And the best ways to preserve your wealth in college funding is to get educated, become more familiar with options to pay your share of college without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak.
Correct.
So there's cheaper money to use and there's expensive money to use. And a lot of parents get caught on their heels and they react and they end up slicing up their pie, not in a good way that adds value to their retirement. So there's a science and an art to orchestrating financial strategies, identifying where money's going south on you and not really accumulating as hard as it can possibly be. But the point is when your child reaches that senior year in high school, you're going to be more aware of what resources are available to pay your share of college if merit-based financial aid doesn't come in or FAFSA doesn't come in. So knowing more of what angle you can choose. Now, this gives you a better understanding of what you can afford and what you can't afford. And again, how's your student performing? You know, is city schools a good outlet? Anyway, what separates my services is we want to make your money work as efficient as possible and maybe even provide a strategy to recover the cost of college after you pay for it later throughout your one's life by giving you more options, financial positioning. I know that might sound over the head of a lot of people, but we use a model in order to demonstrate effective cash flow strategies.
Right. And I was going to say, and one of the things too is, you know, you do a no obligation assessment, you know, but you offer workshops, and that's really where you teach people how to use those models. Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about your website, that about your website, and then some of the workshops that you have coming up. I believe there's some that are coming up in the next month, if you want to share with the viewers about that.
Absolutely. You go to collgeplanningfresno.com, and there you'll have a list of future free webinars that you can zoom into. You know what I mean by zoom. And
yes,
they're educational, college funding, and knowing the ropes in the college admissions process. And we talk about the problems with 529 plans too, because that's a real hot button with young parents wanting to start accumulating money for college. So we talk about the good sides and the bad sides of those college-specific savings plans, whether to get into them or not. So that's informative, and plus we get in and bring the parent to be more familiar with the lay of the land as they enter this college planning, college admissions kingdom, all the different routes they can take. So we bring awareness to that. But there's also, my next webinar is Thursday, April 11th at 6:30 p.m. You can register at College Planning Fresno. I have another one that's identical on Tuesday, April 16th at 6:30 p.m. You can go to collgeplanningfresno.com and register. And then once you've experienced the webinar, we strongly encourage you to get a no-cost assessment about your unique circumstances and get you pointed in the right direction. And even it's kind of like it's like the cherry on top from the webinar. Now you're getting a one-on-one candid conversation with a pro that can give you options. We never try to throw ourselves in sales hype and anything like that. We want to take your facts and your situation and give you options, and it's your choice which option you want to take. Yeah,
exactly. And before we wrap here, it's people need to understand that this is not a one size fits all, because each situation is different, and that's why you are such a great guide to help each family customize the plan that's best for their child or children.
Absolutely. We have resources to go to that have credentialed college counselors that do work with students as well. And it just depends on the needs of that family, what kind of level of services you would like to have. And so, like you said, Hope, there's no one plan fits all. It's all unique, and it's an enjoyable experience. It's an educational experience to take a consultation and in a relaxed atmosphere too, either by Zoom or in person.
Well, Scott, from me to you, once again, I thank you for helping me with getting my daughter situated in college and that whole experience. And I know you'll do a great job in helping other families. I thank you so much for joining us today. You are at College Planning Fresno, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And your number is 559-307-6103 if people need to reach out to you.
Text or call me or anytime. You bet.
That sounds great. Scott Karl, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Hope. Thank you. You too.
You're very welcome.
Yes, and this is Hope Rosky, and we'll be right back.